in a green flag lap this afternoon for race 2, but yes, there is.
There it is. So off they go on the green flag lap. Now these cars don't normally have a green flag lap, but because of the change in conditions throughout the day, officials decided that it was appropriate that all of the races today should have a green flag lap to allow the drivers to familiarise. And that has signified the start of the 15-minute countdown as well, I can tell you, on our TSL timing screen. So it will be a slightly shorter actual competitive element of the race once this green flag lap has been completed.
So the grid here set on the second best laps from qualifying, so that's why we see Richard Carter a bit further up the order than what he ran in race 1 when he finished 8th in his 1930 Austin 7 single-seater with a 750cc engine. Don Rawson, I believe, built this car, and Richard prepares it with Stephen Carter. It's great to have the Austin 7s towards the front. We heard from Charlie Plain-Jones earlier, didn't we, in these wet conditions, the Austin 7s to sort of take it to the post-war cars that are also on this grid, including the car that's on pole position, the 1172 Formula Championship car of Greg Catton from the late 1960s. It's not a totally unique car, but it's a very unusual one. Only 5 Dysons were built, and it's probably the only car that's still in competition now that is there on the front row of the grid, alongside John Village, the 71-year-old who's from Derbyshire, who started racing 52 years ago in 750 Formula in a similar car to what he's racing today. But was a multiple Formula Ford champion in Europe in 79, in England in 81 in the Esso Championship, but retired from driving in the late 80s to set up his JVA race team that was so successful, first of all in low-powered junior single-seaters, but later in winning races for Team Canada in the A1GP Championship. Good to see that Lotus 11 out. So we saw that out at Manbury Park for the first time, didn't we? The David Rose car. It's a sort of a lower powered Lotus 11 than what you'd see in some historic sports car races. A 750cc Lotus 11. So if you've got one of those at home you'd like to go racing, this is a great way to do it. It'd sort of be underpowered, I guess, in the 1950 sports car races that the 1100cc cars would race in. But it gives it a place to race, doesn't it? And it's great to see that David Rose is out once again this season in his Lotus. It's sort of an iconic car, isn't it, from the late 1950s that Colin Chapman built, who of course was a member of the 750 Motor Club all those years ago.
Yeah, one of the illustrious past members of the 750 Motor Club. So many of the great British race car constructors, designers, engineers have been 750 Motor Club members. President still is Tony Southgate, one of those.
See, there's some viewers watching on from Switzerland, looking out for Joe Zosho and Jörg Schneider, who are both have travelled over to compete today. Jörg Schneider is a long-term competitor, but Joe Zosho had his first ever race in England earlier on today, the multiple European mainland Formula Ford champion. He did end up in the gravel area though, so hopefully he enjoys this race a little bit better. He was going well prior to that. He starts a bit further down the grid today, or this time out on row 4.
Green flag waves at the back then. About 11.5 minutes for this race to go then in the Raceparts Historic 750 Formula Series. It gets underway. Not particularly well though. Richard Verheyden from the second row of the grid in the race kits Merlin. He's lost several positions. Jörg Schneider is one of those that's caught him but not actually passed him. It's John Village that's going to lead into the first corner, and it's the Austin 7 that's sweeping through in second place. But I think Richard Carter, isn't it, in the number 88 car, with the pole position car of Greg Catton down to third.
Richard Carter's going for the lead. He's alongside John Village as they head into Hollywood, but I think JV will hold on for now, but Richard Carter, we've certainly not seen this high up a historic 750 Formula Series race before, is there in second position. Everyone tiptoeing down the Craner curves. Greg Catton didn't enjoy the conditions earlier in his Class D Dyson, but he's there in third, ahead of Graham Wilson, who's there in fourth place. But there's that 1930 Austin 7 single-seater, the supercharged car from Class B, going really well in these early stages. We'll see if he can stay there. Richard Carter finished 8th earlier on. some way behind Peter Marsh, who was the top Austin 7 in race 1. But John Village now getting away. You've got this big battle pack behind Richard Carter now. Greg Caton seems to be enjoying these less wet conditions. And then you've got Graham Wilson there in 4th spot as they climb the hill. The Dyson now on the inside. Greg Caton, who was quicker than John Village in qualifying, remember, he's going for 2nd and grabs it at Coppice Corner.
He does. So Richard Carter goes back down to 3rd place, but of course there's 3 different classes filling the first 3 places here. Richard Carter in Class B, Greg Caton in Class D, and the race leader John Village is in Class C as they head down towards the Robert Chicane for the first time in this race.
That Austin 7 single-seater really does look like a mini Grand Prix car, doesn't it?
It
From
does.
what would have raced here at Donington Park in the 1930s, in those pre-war Grand Prix races that took place at this circuit.
Yeah, different configuration, of course, than we use these days. Over the line have gone the first 5 or 6 cars. Then it's Village, Caton, Carter, Mile, Wilson and Zosso completing the top 6. For Hayden is 8th, Schneider is 10th. The 2 race kits Merlin drivers, the blue and orange cars respectively. 59 carrying a good bit of speed through there is Joe Zosso, isn't it? Through Redgate Corner.
He may have lost out in the straight though to Tim Sage in the Invitational Mallock. Tim, who I think has won overall races before in the historic 750 Formula Series. His Mallock now an invitational car, so still allow it in to race, even though a class win isn't up for grabs. But he's there now, I think, up into 6th place ahead of Zosso. But Sage, remember, finished 2nd in race 1.
And Ben Miles had a spin in the Gerald there down at the old hairpin. He's won historic 750 Formula races before, 750 trophy races as they probably were at the time he won them in that car. A long time supporter of the category, so he's going to try and get back up to speed. There is Verheyden, number 6 in Miss Moneypenny, as that car is known, and just behind him is Peter Marsh, who was successful in Class B in the earlier race, but playing 2nd fiddle to Richard Carter on this occasion.
Verheyden makes more in an international field to this race because he's from France.
Yes, he is.
So got 3 nationalities up inside the top 10, which is pretty impressive. And down the, I guess not really called the exhibition straight nowadays, is it? Now there isn't an exhibition in the buildings alongside, but down into the Robert Chicane. That's Peter Marsh, who's just behind these 2 in the 2nd of the Austin 7, so he's losing positions. We're down the inside, I think, was Ben Bolt, who's made good progress. The driver who's in his 80s from Warwickshire, started racing all the way back in 1961 and was a class winner at the 1964 Burkitt Relay. So great to have Ben Bolt out there. He's just jumped up into 8th position, so he's gained a number of positions on the last lap.
Yeah, great to have that link with one of the earlier runnings of the Holly Burkitt 6-hour relay race on the grid. Ben Bolt here today. Has been competing in this historic 750 Formula category for a few seasons now.
Greg Caton is catching John Village for the lead. The gap is 1.7 seconds. He was half a second faster on the last lap. So, although the lap times aren't really any quicker than race 1, or not for John Village, Greg Caton enjoying them a lot more. And as I say, he's going after the race leader with still 6.5 minutes to go. There's our Class A leaders. They are together pretty much, aren't they? Charlie Plain-Jones and Matt Tompkins.
And a spinner, was that Bolts possibly, out of the old hairpin into the gravel trap. Not seen who that was. We'll see if we can figure that out in a moment. There's one car just disappearing. There's the 2 car of Tim Sage, the Mallock, that's in 4th position behind Graham Wilson and Richard Carter. Then sort of 8 seconds or so up the road from him, you've got the top 2, John Village and Greg Caton, who, as Josh was saying, we're getting closer together. 1.7 seconds was the gap at the end of the previous lap. Here they are now, and it's maybe come down a little bit. We'll see as they come through to end the lap. It was car 13. Yes, it was Ben Bolt that spun and continued at the old hairpin. On the previous lap, I think there'd been a spin for Ben Mile, as we saw. So a couple of cars having a spin down there. But over the line have gone the leaders now. The gap has come down again to 1.1 seconds now, a 1:50.376 that time for Greg Caton, who is catching John Village, the race leader. But it's been another off, I'm afraid, for Ben Bolt, this time at Coppice.
Yeah, it's been an eventful lap after he was saying how well he was doing on the previous time round. So there are the leaders, or the full-bodied car of the 1172 Formula machine of Greg Catton behind the 750 Formula car. It's got the narrower front end of John Village, a car that is for sale, I believe. And another car off, that's at the chicane.
Schneider, is it?
Looks like, yeah, he's not had a good day in his new car, has he? He's not got the pace that we've seen from him in the past. But we'll see perhaps on a drier day later in the season whether he can bring the Race Kits Merlin up to podium positions, which we've seen him manage previously. So 5 minutes of the race to go. John Village and Greg Catton head up to the top end of the circuit. Richard Carter still in third overall in that supercharged 7, so he is absolutely flying along, having the strongest race we've seen from him in that car, and much stronger than race 1 where Peter Marsh was a long way ahead of him. This time Richard Carter a long way ahead of Peter Marsh, about 10 seconds or so. There's Village at Coppice. The fastest lap to Catton is a 150.3. Jörg Schneider's out of the gravel, isn't he?
Yes.
He's completed the lap.
Yeah, he's rejoined, yeah. So John Village, I think, has got a bit of a wake-up call here, because it looks like the gap has gone back out again, doesn't it, between himself and Greg Catton. It was 1.075 at the end of the previous lap. Catton did a 150.376. Village did a 151.003. I suspect the lap times might continue to come down here as the conditions continue to improve. Over the line goes Village once again.
It's happened again.
Oh dear, Ben Bolt, that's 3 minutes down. It was a 149.897 that time for John Village, and he pulled out about 2 seconds on Catton that time.
Yes, like you say, he's picked up his pace fairly significantly, so John Village getting away. He's won a lot of races recently with John Village, to add to all the races he won back in the 1970s. Here's Peter Marsh, I think, in his Austin 7. The Pigsty Engineering car, which runs the Rod Yates alloy body, car that was rebuilt last year. He's got ahead, I think, of Joseph Zosho, the Swiss driver, who was France, a German, and a Swiss Formula Ford champion. Meanwhile, a battle on for 5th position between Graham Wilson and Richard Verheiden. The battle for second within Class C for the 750 Formula cars. Yeah,
and remember that Verheiden here made a very bad start, didn't he, from the second row of the grid. He was actually ahead of Wilson on the grid, but lost out at the start. Wilson then in 5th now, Verheiden in 6th, and as Josh says, this is also the battle for the 2nd and 3rd places, the podium positions within Class C as well. And making their way through the old hairpin up towards McLean's. There's the Class A leader, Charlie Plain-Jones, in number 22. And he's ahead of the David Rose car as well, isn't he? Which is looking magnificent. The Lotus behind it, number 3. The Lotus 11 for the drive from Kidderminster.
Matt Tompkins is only 4 seconds behind Charlie Plain-Jones. So Class A is much closer this time. And Matt Tompkins is getting quicker and quicker every time out in the Tompkins Special, the car that he has built recently, the car that started life as a Ruby Saloon, as so many of the Austin 7s that are made into race cars are. A car that originally made, I think, just for going down the pub, and it's exploded from there. And he's raced a couple of events last year, and significantly quicker this season is Matt Tompkins, the motoring journalist in that car.
Yeah, it's just behind the Lotus that we were just watching there, so those two pretty close together now. There's the Lotus, and yep, there's the Austin 7 of Tompkins that we were just talking about, the Practical Classics magazine writer.
Yeah, I think his father, Gary, designed all the bodywork, and then Matt made it with aluminium into what you can see there on your screens now. I think after he bought the car, he went to Race Retro and met James Winstanley. He managed to convince him to come racing with the car. And it's fair to say, that first race at Cadwell Park, his speed now is probably doubled from that meeting
yes.
last year.
It was a little painful watching it first time out. Yellow flags or yellow light panels flashing there, and there is a car off. Yes, can you see the driver getting out of the car down there at
Christopher Jones, 41.
Yeah, it is the 41 car. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris Jones. That's out of the race, I'm afraid, in the DNC.
A wave from Matt Tompkins to some of the photographers down there at the chicane. Look out for John Elsie's photos after the meeting. He shared on social media as well as on his website.
John Village, by the way, now leading by 4.4 seconds over Greg Catton, so that lead has gone out, and it's still Richard Carter in third place, though, although he was marginally being caught by Tim Sage for the final position on the podium. Talking of which, up at Coppice Corner, here they are. Number 88, Richard Carter in third. Number 2, Tim Sage in the Invitational. Mallet U2 is in fourth position here. So quite different cars.
They are going to squeeze another lap out of it. John Village has just crossed the line with a few seconds to go. So yeah, Tim Sage could end up third here. So he was, what, 7th or 8th in the early laps. And they head down the hill, just ahead of Graham Wilson and Richard Verheyden. So through the final couple of corners they go, but they've got a further lap to do. The 1970 Time 3B there, ahead of the much more recently built race kits, but to the sort of the spirit of 750 Formula racing of the early 1970s. And he goes through. Richard Verheyden goes up to 5th on the exit of the chicane ahead of Graham Wilson.
Yeah, and that's as they start their final lap of the race. Black and white flag was being shown to Ben Bolt a short while ago.
Behind them, Peter Marsh is going very quickly. He's just on a 1 minute 52 in his Austin.
He has
7, the Super Snort.
He's 7 seconds behind the car in front of him, though, Graham Wilson, isn't he? So he's going to struggle to catch that before the end of this lap and therefore the end of this race. So we're watching there Tim Sage, and he is now got himself behind another back marker, hasn't he? Between himself and Richard Carter. Here, though, is John Village. He's up at Coppice Corner for the final time. His lead was 7 seconds at the start of this 7th and what will be final lap of the race. He's not far from lapping Jörg Schneider, actually, is he? He's in 14th place after his various dramas.
Who he's battled with last year for race wins.
Yeah, well, Schneider did beat him on one occasion after Village and Linden and Thurston tangled at Alton Park. But here they come then through the final chicane, the Robert chicane. John Village is going to come through, and he's going to take the checkered flag for his second victory of the day in the Raceparts historic 750 Formula Series. A convincing win it is. There's the Dyson in second place of Greg Catton. He's going to win his class in second place. Hopefully a happier race for him this time around. And then it should be Richard Carter in third, one would think.
Looked like he was ahead. I'm just looking in the background there, down the back straight. He was still ahead of Tim Sage. Sage had caught him a lap ago. It looks like Richard Carter. We haven't seen an Austin 7 on the overall podium for a little while, but these wet conditions allow for it, and Richard Carter's driven really well, and he's going to come home in third ahead of Tim Sage, and behind Richard Verheyden, you could see in the inset there, just kept Graham Wilson at bay, and they finish in 5th and 6th, just ahead of the charging Peter Marsh, who was several seconds faster than them on the last few laps of the race, but he's only second this time in Class B.
Silverstone last year was the last time there was an Austin 7 on the podium, which was Timothy Roebuck.
Timothy Roebuck got quite a few, didn't he?
Yeah, in John Miles's car.
Wonder if he was here today, whether he might have challenged John Village.
I think he could have done, certainly. So the rest of the cars coming through at the end of this race that's ended in the sunshine, at least here at Donington Park, the opening meeting of the season for the Raceparts historic 750 Formula series rather than a point-scoring championship. They'll continue at Alton Park at the end of the next month, end of May. That's the part of the BMW live meeting. Here's Charlie Plain Jones coming through to complete victory in Class A, his second class win. Matt Tompkins is going to be second within that class. Should be appearing into sight any moment now. There he is, over the crest of the hill, just behind David Rose's car, and Matt Tompkins is going to be second in Class A on this occasion. And Jörg Schneider taking the checkered flag as well. So that brings to an end the Raceparts historic 750 Formula action for today. We'll have a look at the results then. John Village, number 29 in the Village 3-2, winning the 7-lap race by 7.09 seconds from number 31 Greg Catton in second in the Dyson Type 64. Third was number 88 Richard Carter, after 7 on the podium, one of the supercharged Class B cars. Fourth was number 2 Tim Sage. Fifth was number 6 Richard Verheyden. 6th was number 7 Graham Wilson. 7th was number 8 Peter Marsh. 8th and 59 Joe Zosso. 9th was number 14 Ben Marlow. Landing at the top 10 and winning Class A was number 22, which was Charlie Plain Jones. So that's all of the historic 750 Formula Racing for today. Let's say they're back in action at Alton Park at the end of May. Josh?
Yeah, it should probably attract, particularly if it's dry, suit the cars quite nicely, won't they? A bit like Cadwell Park, which the drivers enjoy driving these cars round. They aren't terribly powerful, are they? All well below 100 brake horsepower, right. So those tighter circuits suits the cars quite nicely. And there'll be some handicap races throughout the season as well, won't there?
That's
in
right.
the spirit of early car races in the United Kingdom.
Yes, no, and they're always great fun to watch and commentate on as well, aren't they? As the handicapper tried to theoretically ensure that all of the drivers cross the finishing line essentially together.
Yeah, that would have been a bigger challenge in the prospect today, wouldn't it? Try to work out the speed of cars in the wet.
It would have been always an extra challenge, so watch out for the handicap races that are sprinkled throughout the season as well. In the Raceparts historic 750 Formula Series. Don't forget, there's the contemporary 750 Formula cars that we'll see out again very soon as well. But let's, for the moment, head down to Anna McEwen in the pit lane.
So, a double race victory for John Village in the Raceparts historic 750 Formula Series, and he shakes the hand of Greg Catton, who once again was chasing from behind. This time Greg ending up second place on the road though. Much as I don't want to interrupt what I'm sure was a very important post-race debrief, John, how was that second race for you? Again, you built quite a healthy margin early on, didn't you?
Yeah, I made a better start this time, only just. Again, slippy track. Just got to keep it straight and level and keep precise.
Probably quite similar conditions to race one, except the track's going the other way now, isn't it? It's going from wet to dry. How much or little grip is there out there compared to race one?
Very, very similar. Oh, right. Very similar.
But you mastered the conditions, obviously. Happy with your day's work? 2 race wins, pretty comfortable wins as well.
Yeah, that's all you ask for, isn't it?
You back out for the next round?
Hopefully, unless I sell it. It is for sale.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, what's the asking price, dare we ask?
12.
Okay. Bargain, I'd say.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. If you want to get involved, then head over, contact John and get your hands on what is a race-winning car. Congratulations, John, on the win. Greg, second place, one step further up the overall podium, but another class win. John's just tough to catch, isn't he?
He is very tough. Yeah. If you let him get away, there's no catching him up. He just doesn't make mistakes. Seasoned campaigner. Yeah.
Obviously, race one didn't start ideally for you. You bounced back quite nicely. That one, though, seemed a lot cleaner, a lot more consistent.
It was, yeah. The track's still very wet and greasy. There's just no braking. All the braking points were as slippery as anything. And you just had to rely on knocking it down a gear and praying. Pray for luck.
So we're not at the point yet where you're using the sort of traditional dry lines then, no?
No dry lines yet. The next race, when we go out again, it'll be nice. Oh, but that's the last race. Shame.
Oh, we look forward to that. Congratulations, Greg. Another class victory for you. Richards is there. There we go, Richard. Congratulations. Class winner as well. Wow. By the way, it is about 10 degrees warmer out here than it was for your race earlier on today. Does that have an effect on cars like this with things like overheating? Do you have to be mindful of things like that?
Yeah, we've got to watch all the temperatures all the time. It's at least we've got a bit of time going down these straights to look at all the dials and make sure everything's as it should be, yes.
Didn't get a chance to talk to you after race one either. How's your day been all round?
Race one was a disaster. I didn't realise it was a start from the grid. I thought it was a warm-up lap, so I just poodled off gently and thought, oh, silly person, live and learn.
Well, exactly. Won't make that mistake again, I suppose,
No,
will you?
no.
Tell us a bit about the car then. I can see, is it a car you've been driving for a while now?
Last year and this year, it's a Don Rawson built Austin 750cc supercharged. But we're at a bit of disadvantage. We're on older style of tyres, drum brakes, but we're here, and it's competitive against these other faster cars, which is really great. It's good to mix with them.
Nicely done. All right, congratulations on the class win. A very quick word, if we can, with Charlie Plain-Jones. Charlie, we did have the chance to catch up with you earlier on. Yes. Good day's work, I'd say.
Yes, very pleasing. Thank you very much. But what I think was interesting was some of the slower cars are a lot faster in this race than they were in the last. And my rearview mirror was full of some people who were nowhere near in the first race. So I think it's been good conditions and a lot of lessons have been learnt. And clearly people are going a lot faster. So that's good to see.
It is indeed. Thank you very much.